All right, hello everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us today for the September 2016 Owner Report webinar. My topic today is I'm going to present on should I buy stocker calves this fall or a fishing license. So my name is Prevatt. I'm the Regional Specialized Agent focusing on livestock and forage economics at the Range Cattle REC in Ona, Florida. At the conclusion of today's webinar, you'll be able to ask some questions. At that time, if you go to the GoToMeetings questions panel, and you're welcome to type in your questions or email some questions after the presentation today. So with that, we'll get started talking about this this stocker cattle decision for this fall. So the basic principle behind this decision whether to retain some stocker calves or to purchase some is our stocker marketing options. So things that we're going to have to consider when we're talking about our stocker marketing options are the different types of stocker production programs that are available to us, cost of production, the value of gain that's available in the marketplace, marketing, and then the risk management decisions that we have to make for taking these animals to higher weights. So those are going to be the 5 things that we're going to focus on this afternoon. So let's talk about the different stocker production programs that we have available to us in the Southeast. It's very important for us to recognize that every operation is a little different. You know, each individual operation is going to have to seek out what their competitive advantage is for running stocker cattle or retaining their own animals. And for each production program, they're going to have different classes of animals, their breed, their age, the sex, and the weight and the quality of the stocker animals that they retain or purchase. The length of the grazing season is going to be different depending on what they're what's available to them. Also the time of the year. If we're looking at the traditional fall to spring stockering period, or maybe some summer stockers. Also the feedstuffs that are a little higher quality feedstuff is going to be required to meet the nutritional needs and add some weight to these stocker animals. Also the land resources. You know, there's a push right now that's going through the cattle industry to look at some confinement feeding or some limited or seasonal confinement. So that land resource and also labor availability is going to factor into that stocker production program. Also, we're going to get into the market outlook in the cattle cycle today, how that's going to affect these stocker production programs, and looking at the value of gain that's associated with the cattle cycle. Also, if we look to this fall to springtime period, there's also that weather consideration, and also that there's an unlimited number of variables for those other factors of production that are going to be affecting us. Okay, so if we look at just one particular stocker production program, or one particular time of the year for this stocker production program, that fall to spring time period is a common stocker production system in the Southeast. And then there's a number of different production programs that fall under that specific time period. We have the winter annuals, some ryegrass, rye, oats, and clovers that you know, that a lot of people are trying to winter these stockers on. Then there's winter annuals with supplementation, maybe some stockpile forage with some heavier supplementation. In northern Georgia and northern Alabama, we'll see some fescue and clover that runs into that stocker production program. And then we have our dry lot alternatives. And then there's always that alternative to ship some cattle to some wheat pastures in Oklahoma and Texas and retain ownership on those animals. So we have that option to contract graze elsewhere. So these are just going to be a few alternatives that we have to factor in and think about for our stocker production systems during this time period. And then if we look at the weather outlook for our stocker production system, we may have to adjust it a little bit based on this weather outlook. Now this is as of this morning. We just got this from NOAA. Their new update is we continue to see drier than expected levels of rainfall this coming fall, winter, and spring. And so we're going to have to adjust our plans and plan a little differently as we have this lower levels of moisture, maybe a little less pasture, and some more supplementation may be necessary for our stock production programs for a fall to spring time period. So just moving to that next focus point is that cost of production. So let's talk about cost of production just a little bit. And I think this is going to be a major focus on us for the next 5 to 7 years is really cutting down on these costs and getting focused on lowering our cost of production, be more economically efficient on the cost side. The first thing we really got to grasp is, let's look at our total costs and all these individual costs that come together in a stocker budget. And then our cost of gain, our break-even price, and lastly, our price objective for whenever we're making the stocker decision. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grasp all of our information together and really look at what's it going to cost to do this stocker production system, and what kind of variables and different levels of performance that we have available to us during the system. The second thing, this is an example that we're going to work through today for our 2016 feeder cattle futures contract. We're going to look at what's happened over the past year and really focus on what our cost of gain, break-even price, and price objective would have been over the past year, to look at what how the market played out over the past year. So for our cost of gain, this is going to be our sum of our production costs, our variable and fixed costs, plus any death loss divided by the weight gain of our feeders. Now, when most people talk about cost of gain, they're focusing just on feed costs. They're not include all those other costs, maybe some interest costs and then the ownership of machinery and equipment. Those costs plus this death loss really has to be factored in whenever we think about our cost of gain. So it's just so if we look at an example for the fall of 2015, if we've made this same decision framework of if we're going to purchase or retain our stocker calves versus buying a fishing license. In this example of the fall 2015, if we purchased 70 head, 350-pound stocker steers, they were purchased, grazed, and supplemented for 240 days. We incurred production costs, our estimates of $24,500 or $350 a head, with the death loss of 2% of $1,397, and we realized a total weight gain there of 27,600 pounds. That's 400 pounds of gain for our 69 remaining animals. Our cost of gain would be $25,897 a head, or 94 cents a pound for that cost of gain. For these feeder steers, they're going to have a sale weight of around 750 pounds. Now we know that cost of gain. Now we've calculated it. Now let's move through that rest of our stocker production system to see how that works out over the last 12 months here. So we have our cost of gain, looking at it around 94 cents per pound of gain there. We look at, what if things were 5% better? Also, what if they were 5% worse? So in terms of the 5% better category, that's our cost of gain of negative 5%. Reducing that cost of gain by 5% lowered that cost of gain by almost 5 cents there. And then increasing the cost of gain, if our cost went up by 5%, it would increase by 4 cents there. So then there's the break-even price. We've had our cost of gain. Now looking at what the break-even price would be for running these stockers over the past year. It's the sum of our production costs, both variable and fixed, divided by the sale weight of those feeders. So in the fall of 2015, if 70 head of these stocker steers were purchased at $69,825, that's $998 a head. That's having those same production costs of $24,500. Our total break-even price is going to be right there at $94,325 for these feeder steers that are going to have a sale weight of 750 pounds. So we look at that in our feeder cattle break-even price for August 2016. This is for our Southeast region. This was put on for our Deep South Stocker Conference. So based on these 2015-2016 estimated costs of production, we estimate that our break-even price for this example is going to be $182 a hundredweight, or $1,396.67 a head. So $1,367 a head there. And then we throw in our price objective. The price objective is just going to be our sum of our production costs, variable and fixed, our family living withdrawal, some growth capital and retirement, all that divided by the sale weight of our feeders. So working through that same example, our 70 head of stockers purchased with a break-even price there of $94,325. We put in family living withdrawal of $3,500 a head was desired there. That's our management fee to get us paid for what we're doing for the management of our cattle herd. And then growth capital and retirement there, putting some savings back of $3,500 there. Our total price objective would be $101,325. So we look at that price objective on our feeder cattle price objective for 2016, and that price objective is up there at $196 a hundredweight, or $1,468 a head. So that's, as you've seen the market over the last year, that's much higher than what the market's offering for these feeder cattle. So just looking there at our estimated break-even price and our estimated price objective at the same time, the price objective $14 a hundredweight, higher than that estimated break-even price. So getting us paid for what we're doing for the management of our cattle herd. So now we're going to just focus on the marketing aspect of them. We just focus on the production system and the cost of production of the system. So focusing now on the marketing side of the decisions we're going to have to make there. So we're going to look at the market outlook, our cattle cycles, focusing. I think we're going to move back more to the seasonality of the market. So we're going to look at seasonal price trends. And then we're going to look at our expected cash price that we've been able to receive during this 2015-2016 time frame. So as we know, we continue to be in herd expansion. We expect expansion to continue here in 2016. We typically see 7 to 11 years in majority of these the cattle cycles, these herd expansions, and then declines in inventory numbers. And as you can see over time, we're going to continue to move through these cattle cycles. So we expect another 7 to 11 years for this cattle cycle to last. Some have lasted shorter than others, but we continue to see increasing numbers of cattle inventory for the current year. And after the cattle inventory, we reached this midpoint, maybe in the late 2010s, in there in 2018, 2019, we'll start to see a decline in terms of that cattle inventory there. So looking at that cattle inventory, we also know there's that correlation with these U.S. average 450-pound feeder steer prices by month. And as you can see, over the last 5 years there, we had that large margin of run-up in prices, and then we've seen them recede over the last year. So we continue to expect there to be a large amount of correlation between our feeder steer prices and the cattle inventory levels. So we expect them to decline below this trend line here over the next several years. We're expecting somewhere between $50 to $75 a head decline per year that we continue expansion over the next 2 or 3 years. And we mentioned the seasonal price trends. So if we throw out the last 5 years of data there, you know that's a irregular market that happened over the last 5 years there. We get focused on the early 2000s, 2001 to 2010. We're really going to see this market pull back into the seasonalities that we saw in the early 2000s. So as you can see in this chart, we'll see our lows for these 7 to 8 weight stocker cattle are gonna occur in that January, February time frame, and then that October to December time frame. And the way you understand this chart is so that high there is at 1.05. That's going to mean that market prices in August are typically 5% higher than the average yearly price. And then in December, when it's 0.98, that means it's going to be 2% lower than our average expected price. So marketing those animals during that July-August time frame, these 7 to 8 weight animals, has typically been very successful for stocker producers. So we've gathered this information over the last year, looking at this August 2016 feeder cattle futures prices of when we could have, how we could have protected the price and marketed these animals. So this is our feeder cattle expected cash price for August 2016. And now over the last year, obviously, the volatility in the marketplace, the increasing supplies of meat proteins have caused declines on the market. We started up there around 180, and we've traded down into the 120s, low 130s there. So as we look at this, when at the time of our decision to when if we're gonna purchase or retain these stocker cattle, or we were gonna go with a fishing license instead, we were trading at about 132 on the board. So as we look at how we calculate this expected feeder cattle cash price, the way we've done this is we've used our August 2016 feeder cattle futures price plus our estimated basis. And for this for the Deep South Stocker Conference, our focus was the Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and North Florida region there, and our basis we were looking at plus 10 for this time frame in 2015, 2016, and that provided us with our feeder cattle expected cash price. So for producers, once they've marketed their animals for the year, they're able to calculate their own basis. They take their expected cash price minus their feeder cattle futures price, and that's going to provide them for their basis that they can use to analyze this same type of decision framework. So as you can see here, at the beginning of this 2016 feeder cattle futures contract, we knew what we could purchase those calves for or retain our own, and the expected cash price for that August 2016, it was below that break-even price or price objective. So we knew that this was a prime example of betting that higher prices were coming, and these higher prices didn't happen. So it's always important to include this framework in order to determine where profits exist based on what the futures market is projecting. So as you can see, that the expected cash price as we finished this August 2016 feeder cattle futures contract was $50 a hundredweight below our break-even price, and then $64 a hundredweight below that price objective. So that took a big hit there for these 2015, 2016 stocker producers. As we look at the same question for 2016, these stocker producers, they'd much rather bought that fishing license than to retain these animals and had the management costs over them for the last year. And then just as an example, you can see that obviously last year is not going to happen every year. We have this expected cash price. It does achieve greater levels than our break-even price and our price objective. This is our August 2012 feeder cattle futures contract, and we saw levels much greater than our price objective during this 2012 contract, and we saw them decline at the same time a substantial amount during that summer of 2012. So let's shift gears just a little bit. We've done cost of gain. We've done some of the marketing behind marketing these feeder cattle. So then let's look at value of gain and what that might be like. So first we'll look at our historical value of gain We'll look at value of gain by our cattle price cycle segment. We'll monitor our value of gain during different production periods, and then we'll do that the analysis for this coming year of what purchasing the stocker cattle might be like. So our average value of gain of these U.S. steer prices, if we just look at it over time, this buy during October, sell during April, this fall to spring production period, we see that adding these 300 pounds during that first part of the 2000s, it stayed within that range between 40 and 70 cents there. And then as we moved into the to the late 2000s, from 2009 there all the way to 2014, we had very higher levels of this value of gain, moving from 76 cents all the way up there to $1.57 there. So that value of gain was much higher than some of our costs of gains during that time period. And then over the last 2 years that these market prices have receded, we've seen much lower value of gains, specifically during that 2016, that fall 2015 to 2016, spring 2016 time period of about 21 cents value of gain there. So, almost all of us can't put weight gain on profitably during that last time period. So if we're looking at feeder cattle value of gain and profitability by the segment of the cattle cycle, we saw the top of the cattle cycle during that 2013 to 2015. We've moved into this downward price transition we'll move into this downward price transition over the next several years. We're looking at this bottom of this cattle price cycle to be around 2020 to 2022, and then maybe some upward price transition during that 2022 to 2024 time period. So we got much lower prices still on the way as these inventories really start causing higher levels of beef. And then we look at it in terms of value of gain and expected profitability for the stocker producer. And this is just typically what we've seen over past cattle cycles. As you can see, that top of the cattle price cycle during that 2013-2014, that was a significantly profitable time period to be in the stocker production, as those prices continue to rise at record levels. But over time, we've seen that the top of the price cycle is usually just a moderate value of gain for many stocker producers, and typically we expect profits or losses. So over the next 5 years, typically what we see in the cattle price cycle is a lower value of gain for stocker producers, and there can be significant losses that occur. Is that going to happen for everyone? No. But those losses can occur, and as we saw in 2015, 2016, they can be big. The bottom of the cattle price cycle, usually we start to see moderate levels of value of gain. And then that upward transition, that transition that we saw from 2010 all the way to the peak there in 2015, that's where high value of gains and significant profits will occur. So ahead of us there's some light at the end of that tunnel for the next several years. So looking at that value of gain for this August 2016 feeder cattle futures prices, the value of gain as that feeder cattle futures contract declined, obviously the value of gain declined at the same time, moving from about 84 cents value of gain all the way, now we're at a negative value of gain. So every pound that you put on that high priced animal that you purchased, we're losing money just putting weight on, not even including the value of gain of that animal, not even including the cost of gain of that animal. Now, so if we look at the value of gain versus the cost of gain, the value of gain never exceeded the cost of that gain. And so to look at the total, we call it the net value of gain. It's going to be our value of gain and our cost of gain. As you can see, every pound that we've put on over the last year for these stocker production producers here, we've lost significant amounts of money by adding weight to this animal that was losing value. And so that it goes back with that seasonality of the market. As market prices, when they start decreasing, we've really got to get that cost of gain significantly lower in order to profitably put on weight. It's different that when the market is more level, or if it's increasing, it changes our production system a little there. So the big question, this is what we're looking for the 2016-2017 time period. So we're going to buy stockers this fall. We're going to sit it out this year and maybe buy a fishing license. So this is the framework that we've developed. It's our net value of gain analysis. So when we look at this economic evaluation for 2016-2017, we looked at buying steers for September 15th today. Expected purchase weight of 350 pounds. Expected purchase price at $1.45 purchase price per pound. Medium large frame, number 1, number 2 muscle score steers. Purchasing 150 head, grazing about 100 acres. Expected sale date would be May 15th, 2017 at 750 pounds. That's their shrunk pounds. Expected death loss in chronics of about 4%. And then having an expected total cost of gain there at about 85 cents per pound per cost of gain. And then just throwing there a little variation, a potential change in cost of gain. We said with cost of gain went up 10 cents there. So looking at this feeder cattle futures contract month and year, marketing them in May 2017 with a negative 10 cattle basis there. Looking at these May 2017 expected feeder cattle cash price of $123.80 for these 750 pound feeder steers. Now, a little summary data based on those assumptions. We're able to calculate, looking at the number of head we're going to be marketing, the weight gain of those animals, the total weight, 55,000 pounds, additional pounds we're going to be able to sell. This market price is going to decrease by 21 cents, and then total dollars of $57,579. Total dollars per head difference there of $421, and then $576 per acre difference between that stocker calf and selling those feeder cattle. Now, this allows us to look at our value of gain analysis. Now, the value of gain for taking that animal from September to May, it looks to be about $1.04 value of gain per pound. That's $400 per head value of gain, $576 per acre value of gain, and then $57,579. So there's some potential there to get back some of these losses that we've had over the last year. So if we compare that with our cost of gain, we look at our value of gain plus our negative cost of gain there. We have a net value of gain per pound for our cost of gain of 85 cents per pound, a net value of gain of 19 cents per pound, net value per head of $72 per head, and then $104 per acre. A total value gain of that one load of, we're looking at a profit there about $10,404 a head. So is there some potential profits out there moving into 2016, 2017? We think there is. And then even in this cost of gain analysis of 95 cents, there's still some potential out there at 95 cents for that truckload to make about a $4,854 profit there. So lastly, as we look at the decision that we're going to have to make in 2016, 2017, risk management needs to play into our operation. Some of the keys to risk management we think is to be a low-cost producer, diversify your enterprise if you can. Also have an off-farm job, having some stable income there will be key for only running 1 or 2 loads of stockers. Using the seasonal price trends, we expect to see more seasonality in this market as more beef becomes available. We're not going to see those some of those the spikes that we saw over the past 5 years there during the fall. We shouldn't see those as the increase in the number of animals that are available to these order buyers. And then thinking about some form of this market price protection, and always monitoring these price opportunities, understanding what our break-even price, our price objective, our cost of gain, and our value of gain are when making these decisions. And then another alternative is to average market prices out over time. We're going to look at that really quickly. So being a low-cost producer, focusing on economic efficiency. Once we've decided that something is our competitive advantage, we want to be as efficient as we can at it. So lowering our break-even price and our price objective, it really solidifies that risk management that we're doing. So lowering our potential financial losses as well, being very concerned about risk management. Also, this risk management improves our opportunity to use price projection, more understanding of these measures that we can use to protect the price. It also allows us to have the potential to improve our profitability, to reduce the price volatility in times when we expect prices to be a little more volatile. So just a quick overlay of what we're looking at over the past several years. There's a lot of volatility in the market that occurred during. This is our August 2016 feeder cattle futures contract. A lot of volatility was at play. We look back at 2009. Volatility, it didn't just happen. The market's been volatile for several years now. We lost $144 a head between September and December for this August 29 feeder cattle futures contract. We remember the summer of 2012 when we were much better. Our expected cash price was much higher than our price objective, and then all of a sudden we were at break even there in 45 days time. So we have to be willing to maybe look at some different options on protecting this risk management. And so our two options with that futures market are going to be a short hedge, selling a feeder cattle futures contract and then buying it back at the time that you sell your feeder cattle in the cash market. And then also the put option, buying our put option on a feeder cattle futures contract. This put option entitled us to the right, but not the obligation, to a short hedge the feeder cattle at selected strike price. So these are two options that we would look at using the same sort of analysis of our price objective and our break-even price of when we'd be potentially locking in a price on our feeder cattle. So just looking at that August 2012 feeder cattle futures, there was times during August 2012 we would have been interested in locking, if we had several loads, locking in a price maybe. Maybe we get to that $2,000 profit time period. If we had 4 loads, we'd want to lock in a load at $2,000. And then, as the market improved, we'd lock in a couple more loads there. We'd lock in another at $4,000, and then another at $6,000. And then we don't have to go all in at one time period. We can average it out over time, and we could have made a very reasonable profit there by averaging out the risk over time by selling multiple loads on the futures over the time of this August 2012 feeder cattle futures contract. So I appreciate your attention today, and if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them now. You're also welcome to reach us later by email, and I'd also like to mention to be sure to look for our upcoming October owner report webinar with Maria Silvera presenting on managing soil quality and pasture systems, and that will be held on October 18th at noon. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those for you now.
You have one question, and it's not the weather slide.
Okay.
You want to go there. The question is, your slide showed precipitation was drier than normal for Florida from November through next April. What about temperatures during this time period? Yeah. They want to know where you got the information.
Okay. So it's the 3-month seasonal outlook. Okay, so the question was on this. Our first question was on the our weather slide. Where did we get the information, and what was the? Is there a temperature outlook for the same time period? So the information is from NOAA. They put out a seasonal outlook of a year in advance. They do 3 month, 6 month, and 9 and 12 month outlooks. The outlook on precipitation currently is drier than normal for the southeast and Florida as well from now through the May 2017 time period. And then on the temperatures, their outlook is much warmer than normal as well. So a little drier and a little warmer than normal is definitely going to make for a very interesting fall, winter, spring time period there in terms of the rainfall. Also, so you can get the information at NOAA, and also if you need me to send you the link, just shoot me an email at prevacg@ufl.edu, and I can get you that as well.
Any questions from the audience?
All right. Well, thank you all for your attendance today, and if you have any more questions, please shoot me an email. I'll be glad to help you with your question. Thank you. Goodbye.